If you're interested in living a travel based lifestyle, a digital nomad lifestyle, or maybe that slow traveler, slow expat type lifestyle, then I want to help you avoid the headaches that I frequently see people make over my decade of experience and living and traveling to over 70 different countries, because these five things can absolutely ruin your experience. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get on into number one, and that is poor financial planning. Now, generally, you mostly see this in places like Thailand where people end up broke and they don't have enough money to get home, or they're begging for money on the internet through GoFundMe or what may have you. Or it can even range to the fact that because things are so cheap there, you just live uncontrollably and the prices really start to add up. And so you neglect putting money into your savings account or your investments and things of that nature. And so you need to not let the luxury lifestyle catch up to you, because in a place like Thailand, you can get amazing places for, let's say, $1,000 a month. You can get it for even less than that. But many people go there and they're only making 1,500 bucks a month or $2,000 a month, and spending 50 to 75% of your income on housing is objectively stupid, because you need to be putting money into other investments and savings. Because what if you lose your job, or what if you have a medical emergency? You need to be aware of these things. And so that is one of the biggest mistakes I see people make, is just having a really poor financial plan, other than, oh, I'm going to here because it's cheap. And I've said a few times that if you go somewhere, I don't think you should necessarily be living like a local. I think you should be living the best quality of life. Because, yeah, you can go to a bunch of places and you could live on the street if you wanted and have a really low budget. But is that really a comfortable living situation for you? Like, for example, I know people who have spent so much money that they end up living in a hostel essentially. And kudos to them if that is comfortable to them. But I don't want you to end up in that situation where you have to cut your trip short, or you have to stay in like the worst possible locations, or you just simply run out of money. So having a proper financial plan, including long-term financial plan, is really crucial to your long-term success. The second thing that I have noticed, and this will shock some of you because I talk about this on my channel quite a bit, and a lot of you say, oh, well, isn't that just like kind of common knowledge, blah, blah, blah? And the answer is you would think so, but it is not, because I know people who go to a place like Poland in the dead of winter and they go, yeah, this place sucks, the weather sucks, it's cold, it's snowy, it's rainy, it's gray, yada yada yada. And it's like, okay, you need to do at least some cursory research before going to a destination, for the most part, whether it is figuring out if you can actually stay there long term through visas, or whether you need a visa on arrival, or if you have to apply for a visa before, or simply just not being aware of the actual cost of living in certain situations. Or, for example, let's use Thailand. Thailand used to have a 30-day visa on arrival. Now it's 90s for Americans and other countries, I'm sure. But what people used to do is they had border run every 30 days. And then at a certain point, Thailand started to crack down on that system, and people were like, "Oh my god, all my stuff is still in Thailand," because they thought they were just going to do a quick little border run, and they got kind of screwed over. So you need to do some cursory research on these places, whether it's to help you save more money, or to budget appropriately, or to know what to pack, because a lot of people massively overpack. And that can cause a bit of frustration, because if you're doing like a slow traveler lifestyle, or even like one of those lifestyles where you're just on the go every 30 days, do you really want to be hauling your shit all over the place? And then that's going to increase the cost. For example, if you plan on flying places, because then you're going to have to check luggage every time you go somewhere. And so, long story short, you need to do the proper planning on the destinations that you are interested in, from visa situations to the weather to the economy, doesn't matter. Be aware of the things that could trip you up before you go there. Then another thing that really, really impacts people, especially in some of these places where you can live like a king or queen, if you will, in low cost of living places like Thailand, and this kind of goes back to point number one, is the fact that you still need to have a work life balance. So in Thailand, for example, I know that trips up a lot of people because you can live like a king for a very low amount of money. And what happens is most people end up neglecting their work. They don't end up neglecting the vacation or the fun stuff. They neglect work, and then they could get fired, or their income could go significantly down. Your productivity can be hindered. All sorts of nasty things can happen if you lose that work life balance. Now, I'm not saying you have to be like a workaholic junkie. I'm just saying you need to keep these things in check because there are an astonishing amount of people who, for example, let's use Colombia because there's tons of stories in Colombia of people overstaying their visas in Colombia, and then they get hit with these massive fines, which causes financial problems for them. And also, some of their financial problems are due to the fact that they are enjoying too much of the Colombian lifestyle, which put them in this place to begin with. So it's kind of like this never ending circle of torment, if you will. So you really need to be aware of these things. And so you need to make sure you stay on track, you stay on task, you have a productivity tracker, you have to do lists, you have a daily routine. Because I know it can be tempting and it can be hard to stay in that routine when you can increase your quality of life so much without really having to do anything else. And you might even get a little comfortable because you can increase your quality of life and you don't need to make more money and so on and so forth. So just be really, really careful, and especially in some of these places, that you still maintain a work life balance. Then, another thing I would actually say, this is more applicable probably to the digital nomads and like the slow traveler people, but don't follow the trends necessarily and don't put a lot of stock into what like influencers are saying about certain places. That's why I always say, hey, I like this place. You may hate this place. You're probably looking for something different than I am. And I am very open with the fact that I'm a bit bougie. So I hate a place like Chiang Mai because it's not as luxurious as a place like Bangkok. There's not fine dining. The housing options aren't luxury options. And so that is not a great place for me. It could be a great place for you. And that is why I'm very transparent with my spending habits and the things that interest me. If you are the opposite of that, then you should go experience Chiang Mai for yourself. And so many people just follow the trend. One of these places is like Tulum. Tulum, in my personal opinion, is an absolute dump, an absolute shithole. Don't know why anyone would ever go there. It's overpriced, overrated, and frankly, it doesn't even have that great of beaches. But a bunch of influencers made it popular, and so a bunch of people go there, and it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, or if you know about like human psychology, people just post about Tulum because of status and ego, and they want to show off, oh, I went to this cool Tulum place, which frankly, like Bacalar, which is a little bit further than Tulum, admittedly, is better than Tulum, but you don't get the status points and you don't get the boost to your ego. And the wannabe influencers have to say, oh, I've been to Tulum before. So, a long story short, you need to know what you value and what is important to you. And don't necessarily just go with the trending destinations or the most popular destinations or the destinations influencers are pushing on you, because a lot of those places aren't really the best places to go. And part of this is knowing what you value, knowing what's important to you. Do you care about weather? Do you care about nature? Do you want to live a more local experience? I tell people you should go somewhere where your income immediately puts you in the top like 10%. But maybe you don't want to live that type of lifestyle. Maybe you want to live with the native people who are making $250 a month. even though you're making 5 grand a month or something like that. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't hang out with those people or interact with them, but do you really want to live the quality of life that someone who makes a tenth or a 20th of the income that you make? You really want that? I don't know, but it could be. And so this also helps you stay true to yourself and your desires. And then finally, one of the biggest mistakes I see people make, and this is really for like the digital nomad and like the slow traveler crowd, and why a lot of people say, oh, digital nomad is being super lonely, is people kind of forget about making friends and connections and networking when they live this lifestyle because they're always on the go. That's why I said, you probably don't want to do this forever unless you are just super happy being alone. And human psychology, we are social creatures. So 99.99% of us are going to want some sort of connection long term eventually. Maybe not now, and maybe not in the short term, but long term, it would be important to grow roots because I can tell you from experience, it sucks when you really connect with people or a group of people, or maybe there's a special girl you meet, and then I'm out of here tomorrow or in a week, and we'll never see each other. And that's why I have my 3 bases where I live and I have friends in all of these locations. So if I go to Portugal or if I go to Bangkok, I can say, hey, I'm here. You want to go get a drink, you want to go to dinner, blah, blah, blah. You want to go to a concert, doesn't matter. I have social groups that I can go hang out with. And that is because I build connections, because I didn't forget about that part of my life, if you will. Because part of these destinations is based on the company you keep, right? So keep that in mind because that's one of the biggest problems that affects this type of community is the loneliness epidemic. Now, with all that said, if I am missing anything, comment down below and tell me what you think is missing from this list. What other massive mistakes you see people make? And I will see you guys in the next video. I truly appreciate you. Thank you for watching. And as always, peace, much love.